This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and good day, everyone. My name is Mayur Devekar. I'm part of the EC2 product management team at AWS. Today, we're going to be talking about an exciting new program from AWS called the End of Support Migration Program, EMP, for Windows Server. Our agenda today is as follows. We will start by talking about some of the recent end of support events that have taken place in the world of Microsoft Windows. We will be talking about some of the challenges with migrating legacy applications from old versions of Windows to new versions of Windows. We will talk about what is end of support migration program for Windows from AWS, and then we will also include a demo where we will show you how the end of support migration program actually works. So with that, let's dive right in. So as you might be aware, Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 recently was announced to be end of support by Microsoft. That date was January 14th, 2020. There are a lot of versions of, a lot of instances of Windows 2008 and 2008 R2 that are out there in the market. We also see a fair number of 2003 deployments still lingering around in customer deployments. And based on some market estimates, we can tell that there are roughly 40% of existing Windows customers that are still running these end of support versions of Windows. So the question that often comes up is, what does end of support mean for enterprise customers? The first thing that it means is an increased exposure around your security profile. So when an operating system goes end of support, you are no longer able to receive updates on that operating system from the provider, which means this increases your security exposure due to the increasing number of cyber security risks that are coming up every day out in the market. The second thing that we have to also think about is the compliance pieces. There is a risk of being non-compliant with industry regulations when you are running end of support operating systems. The third issue that you run into is around higher operational costs because you have to run these setups in an isolated environment, which increases your cost. Very often, customers also have to pay for extended support, which also increases the cost of running these end of support and these applications of end of support operating systems. And then finally, when a customer is trying to move these applications to cloud, the fact that these applications are running on an end of support operating systems becomes a big barrier for adoption of cloud. That's mainly because the end of support operating systems are no longer available to be run on cloud providers. So the easiest way to migrating these applications to a newer versions is what we will be talking about in this end of support migration program. So some of the challenges related to migrating end of support applications is that there is often loss of expertise, loss of code or installation media in the customer's environment. There are significantly high costs and time commitment related to refactoring or recoding the application, if that's what the application requires. The third one is high risk of upgrade failure because these applications have been around for a long time. Chances are that they may not have received they may not have received updates, and so this becomes an issue when you're trying to do an upgrade, in-place upgrade of the application. Many of these applications are incompatible commercial off-the-shelf applications, which may or may not have support on newer version of Windows. And then finally, there are also dependencies on older runtimes like Java and .NET, which may not be available in the newer version of Windows. So these are just some of the issues that we typically run into when we try to upgrade legacy applications to newer version of Windows. So that brings us to what is end of support migration program for Windows Server from AWS. This was a program that we announced at our reInvent conference at the end of 2019. It is a program that allows customers to package their legacy applications and allows them to run them on a newer version of Windows without any kind of code changes. The program consists of technology and tooling and help from AWS or our partner resources to go about doing the migration from an older version of Windows to a new version of Windows. So the question often comes up, why EMP? Why shouldn't somebody just look at doing an in-place upgrade of their applications? So the problem we often run into that I will also talk about in the demo that is coming up is that some of these applications are just not compatible with the new version of Windows. So what we do with EMP is we decouple the application from the underlying operating system, which allows the application to run on a new version of Windows. We are, with the packaging we do as part of our EMP program, it allows us to run the application on a new version of Windows. So we are able to receive security updates. It reduces the overall security exposure for the customer. The second benefit of EMP is to basically reduce the risk, right? So improve security posture, you get the performance that comes from running the application on a new version of the operating system. And it also, in most cases, brings you up to compliance with all the industry regulations. And then finally, the EMP solution's more cost-effective. It doesn't require the customers to do any kind of refactoring or recoding of the application. And the customer also doesn't have to pay any extended support costs, because when we do the packaging, we are able to move the application to a new version of Windows without requiring any kind of extended support contracts. So the EMP for Windows Server process involves 3 specific steps. The first step is where we do the assessment of the application. So we sit down with the customer in this step. We take a look at what application needs to be packaged, what are the underlying dependencies, what the architecture might look like for the application once the application is packaged and moved to a new version of Windows. And we also discuss any user acceptance criteria that the customer wants to follow to be fully compliant with the new version of Windows. So that's the first step. The second step is where we actually do the packaging of the application. This is where the EMP tool will create a complete package of the application with all the underlying dependencies. And that is when the application will be ready to be moved to the new version of Windows. When the customer doesn't have access to the installation media, we can also package the application from a production version of the application, and that process is called reverse packaging. The third step in the process is to actually migrate the application to AWS. So we can take the application, we can move it to a new version of Windows, and at that point, the application is ready for migration to AWS. So how does the EMP compatibility package work? It works by basically decoupling the underlying operating system instances, and it intercepts any API calls that happen for the application. And then we are able to basically redirect those application calls to the container that is created here, the packaging container. And then all those calls are serviced from the application, within the application itself. The package also isolates the application from from other parts of the environment. So any security risks that are associated with older runtimes automatically get eliminated from this isolation process. And then thirdly, as part of the EMP process, we are able to resolve all known OS incompatibilities while maintaining the integration with the application and other services in the environment. So the question often comes up, how resource intensive is EMP? So the EMP packaging, it's very lightweight. So if you look at this slide, all across the board, the resource utilization is very, very minimal. Our overall CPU hit is less than 1%. We need roughly 10 megs of additional disk capacity. Our RAM overhead is about 20 megs. We don't install any agent, and there is no need for any backend infrastructure changes to run EMP. So the overall resource footprint remains absolutely low, and that's another reason why EMP makes a very compelling option for customers who are trying to upgrade their legacy applications to newer version of Windows without any kind of recoding or refactoring changes. We've been in the market for quite some time. These are a subset of customers that we are currently working with who have seen great success with our EMP program. These are customers that were all running legacy versions of Windows with applications that needed to be migrated to new version of Windows because these were applications that were business critical for the customer. So with the EMP packaging, we were able to put the application in a package which allowed the customer to move to a new version of Windows. And then subsequently, we were able to get those customers moved to AWS for permanent home for these applications. So with that, I'm going to show you a short demo where we're going to talk about how the EMP process actually works. So what I have here is a Windows Server 2019, and I'm trying to run SQL Server 2000 on it. So what we will see is when we try to run the setup file, that setup file will obviously fail. So because this is an old version of the application, we will try to go through, basic checks, basic compatibility, troubleshooting to see if this will resolve the issue. Try to run it again. It obviously fails. So then what we are going to do is we are going to start the EMP process. So in the first step, we will install the EMP packaging tool itself. So that is really the first step to get the process going. So here you'll see that we are installing the application packaging tool. We just take all the defaults. Once the application package builder is set up, we will select the folder where the package will be created. So we will start the initial snapshot where we capture the state of the machine before the application is installed. So this is a snapshot-based packaging technology where we are capturing the before state of the machine before the application is installed. So right now, once the application capture is done, we are going to start the process of installing the application itself. So here we are installing SQL Server 2000. We're going to install the database application itself, any other dependencies that we need to install that are specific to the application will be installed at this point. We'll let this finish. Once the setup is completed, we go into the next phase where we are going to see how the application actually got installed. So it'll show all the application shortcuts that were created as part of the installation process. We will click on the service manager in the shortcuts to bring up the application. Once we click on that, that will bring up the application. Now we actually, at this point, we actually start the application to see what API calls and runtime dependencies the application has to complete the capture of the setup. So right now we are doing the entire capture of the setup. So we are doing a post-install capture to be able to do a diff between the before and after. So we are going to capture the application dependencies here, any registry keys that were modified by the application during the runtime. And then here, as you'll see, we have the entire process capture. So these are all the files that were in the package before, and these are all the files that were captured at runtime during the running of the application. We have the option of customizing this package to only focus on things that we want in the package. And then once that's done, we hit next. Here you'll see the registries that already existed in the package before we install the application. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have the registries that were created, or those are the registries that were modified during runtime. We also have the option of, again, selecting specific registries that we want to remove or include in the package, and then we click Next. When we click Next, we are given the option of naming the package, where we want to store the package. So once we do that, the package is created, and then we'll click Next. And then we are taken in the folder where the package sits. So this is the entire package which is created as part of the tooling process. What we're going to do now is we are going to zip it up so we can move this package into a new version of Windows. So the package is now zipped. We're going to open a command prompt, and we're going to move this package into S3. So we're going to use PowerShell script to move this package into an S3 bucket. The package is now copied. Now we are on Windows 2019, where we are going to go and download the package from the S3 bucket where it was copied. The package has been downloaded. We will now go into our command prompt and just run basic XML changes that we need to make for this particular machine. And then that's going to make the package ready for the install. So at this point, we are starting the process of deploying the package on the Windows 2019 machine that we have here. The deployment is complete. And now we are going to run some basic tests to ensure that the application has been installed correctly. So we will take a look at, we'll do a quick validation test by starting the application. We're going to connect it with a database. So start the application. We're going to connect it with a database here in the next step. Just run a basic test for connection. And as you can see, the test is completed. So that concludes our demo. And I wanted to conclude this presentation by giving you some next steps here. So we have a website on AWS dedicated to the EMP for Windows Server. So you can see the link here. If you click on it, you'll get access to a lot more information. We have white papers. We have YouTube videos that show how the technology works. We also have a form for you to sign up for a free POC. So if you want to sign up for a free POC or just want to get more information about the program, you can contact us through that form that's available on the website. Additionally, we also have a email alias that you can see here. You can contact us through that email alias as well if you need more information or simply want to see a demo or sign up for a POC for the program itself. And with that, I thank you very much for dialing into this webinar and hope that you will get in touch with us to learn more about this program. Thank you again.